Hello and welcome to the file guide voiceover video. This project started out from an idea that I had doing another project that was the IKEA ceramic knife makeover, and at the time I realized how hard and extremely abrasive resistant is this kind of ceramic, so I thought it might have been a good idea to try and take advantage of this hard material to make something useful. So I decided to give a try to make a file guide that is pretty much a jig or a fixture, I guess, and it's pretty useful for a couple of operations in the knife making process, specifically the grinding and refinement of the tang in hidden tang knives, and then it can also be used to grind in bevels, and it should help to keep a very straight and consistent transition between the flat of the knife and the bevels, and I think it's called the ricasso area. Of course, I guess, as with anything else, some practice is needed to get good at grinding bevels with a jig like this, but as you'll see in the end, I've tried it and I think it works quite well. So far you've seen me cut the knife, the ceramic IKEA knife, and to do so I used a diamond disc on the angle grinder. These are used to cut like tiles, so they are coated with diamond and it can cut through the blade with very little effort. It's just a little bit rough, so it's hard to get like a clean cut, but it works for this operation. Then the rest of the jig is made just of plain mild steel stock. This is a scrap piece that I had for a very long time and it's pretty thick, so I thought it would have worked well for this application, so I traced a couple of pieces and then I cut it on the metal cutting band. So after that, to keep it aligned precisely for the drilling operation, I decided to tack weld the two pieces, and before I did that I had to make sure the two meeting faces were pretty flat, so I ground them on the 2x72 belt grinder. And now I can start the drilling of the holes. And for this jig I tried to use what I already had on hand, so I've used 6mm stainless steel round stock for the alignment pins and then 6 screws to lock the two sides together. Then of course, since I have to tap one part of the jig and not the other, I have to separate the two parts, and to do so I grind the welds that I did earlier, again on the 2x72 belt grinder. And then to finally tap the holes, I started them out on the drill press again, and this is just to make sure that everything was perfectly aligned or as square as I can make it, and this is just a precaution to make sure that everything would slide and fit together and lock like it should. And of course, having a mill for this kind of project would make it a lot easier, I think. So I really had to take my time and make sure everything was square, nicely aligned, pretty much between every drilling and tapping steps. So I guess it just took a little bit longer. Now here you can see the two alignment pins that are 6mm that I told you earlier, and this is pretty much the movement. Now it's time to finally grind all the faces, and I've done this with the two screws like tightened so nothing would move. And this is pretty important, especially for the top side, that I give it much more attention for it to be nice and square, because it's the surface where the ceramic pieces will go, so they need to be as square as possible to the inside faces for this jig to be like square and symmetrical. At this point I decided to quickly weld the two pins because I noticed they were sliding in and out as I was using and tightening the jig, so this way they can't move and they do the work just fine. Finally, the very last step is to glue in the two ceramic pieces, and I had in mind to use epoxy resin, like quick setting 2-part epoxy resin, but at this point I noticed that my two ceramic pieces were a little bit on the short side, so I guess I will just buy a new set of ceramic blade from IKEA to completely ruin, so that I can have two pieces that are longer. And yeah, I'm not really sure if it's useful yet to have it cover the jig all the way. I guess so. So yeah, using the super glue is just way easier to remove when you don't want it more, just with heat from a blowtorch. It should release pretty easily. And we are already done with this project. From now on you will see like how it can be used, and I have to say it works pretty well for what it is. Consider it's just like a €5 ceramic knife and a couple of pieces of scrap mild steel. I think it's pretty useful. The only thing that I find out while using it is that it's a bit heavy and bulky. So yeah, it's not the most comfortable thing to hold in your hands for a longer period of time. So maybe it's better to make another one that is thinner and lighter to use on the belt grinder. And I might do that one day. Also, speaking about the belt grinder, I noticed with this jig that I can't grind both sides of the bevels, and that's because on the right side I have the frame of the belt grinder that is in the way of the jig. So this is the only reason why I decided to grind a single bevel knife. That actually I never ground a single bevel knife, so just a bit of an experiment, and yeah, overall I think it works pretty well. So, I guess that's it for this voiceover video. Thank you a lot for watching and listening. And as always, if you have questions, let me know. And I'll do my best to reach back as soon as possible. Thank you a lot, everyone. Have a nice day and see you next time. Bye bye.